learn how to multiply and divide decimals. When we're multiplying decimals, the first thing we're going to do is ignore the decimals and multiply as if they were whole numbers. So you don't need to line up your decimals like you do when you're adding and subtracting. Then the second step is to count all of the places after the decimal in both numbers. And I do that usually by drawing a little square around them, which you'll see us do in the examples. And then the third step is to place the decimal that number of spaces from the right in the answer. And you'll notice I do that by drawing a little arrow on the right-hand side of the answer so we know which side we're counting in from. Here's some examples. 7.30 times 2.5. And so the first thing that I did was I lined them up. Notice one decimal's here and one decimal's there. For multiplying decimal numbers, it doesn't matter. For adding and subtracting, it does matter. But right now it doesn't. I'm going to multiply the numbers through. So I did 0 times 5. I went through my whole process. I got my answer down here with all my numbers. The second step was to count all of the numbers behind the decimal place. And I did that by drawing little boxes. So I drew a box around the 3, and I drew a box around the 0. Then I drew a box around the 5. Then my third step was to come down here. I'm going to draw a little arrow so you know which side I came in from. And I drew the boxes, and that told me where to put my decimal place. Let's look at the second example. 14.3 times 0.81. So I multiplied it through. The decimal place didn't matter. Then I drew my boxes around all of the numbers to the right of the decimal place. Came down here for step 3, drew an arrow, and I boxed off 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 boxes. That told me where to put my decimal place. Here's my last example. So I have 1.45 times 2.6. I multiplied them through. 5 times 6 is 30. 4 times 6 is 24. Plus 3 is 27. 1 times 6 is 6. Plus 2 is 8. Put a 0 to hold my place. I went through with the 2. Added them down. And then I added up my boxes. 1, 2, 3 behind each decimal place. Counted them. 1, 2, 3. Come down here. You're going to start from the right. 1, 2, 3. That's where my decimal place goes. Now you know how to divide decimals. Okay, let's talk about decimal division. So the first thing we need to know is how division problems can be set up. So here I have the different ways. The big number is called the dividend. That's not always true, but the number that we will be dividing is called the dividend. The number we're dividing it by is called the divisor, which usually is the smaller number, and the answer is called the quotient. So down here, you're used to seeing problems like this, like, 10 divided by 2. 10 would be the dividend, 2 would be the divisor. That could also be written as a fraction, 10 divided by 2, or it can be written in this where the dividend goes inside what we've called the house sometimes, so it would be 10 divided by 2. Notice that when coming from a fraction form, it's almost like the dividend just falls off the tree inside the house. So dividend falls into the house, the divisor would stay right there, and the dividend would fall right into there. I rewrote divisor for you. Okay, so now here are our rules for decimal division. You can grab some index cards and make this into a foldable 2, or you can just write what it is right down here in your notes. So the first thing to know is if a decimal is on the side right here, 3.6 divided by 1.2. Whenever I have a decimal out here, then I need to do something called slide, slide, then divide. So I'm going to slide this decimal over to the right to where it's not, this number's not a decimal anymore. I'm going to go from 1.2, I'm going to make it a 12. Whatever I do out here, I have to do inside as well. So I'll move the 3.6, I'll slide it over and make that 36. If I rewrite it, it says 36 divided by 12. And then I'm going to go into my second rule, which is if a decimal is in the house, like right here, then I'm going to raise it to the roof. So if a decimal is in the house, raise it to the roof. If a decimal is on the side, slide, slide, then divide. Here are our examples. So 0.9 divided by 0.3. 0.9 goes in the house, 0.3 goes out here. It's on the side, slide, slide, then divide. 3 goes into 9 3 times. So my answer is 3. Down here, 48 divided by 6.8. I rewrote it the right way. I slid, so 6.8, I'm going to slide. Now I went to slide here and I had no zeros, so I had to annex some or put some in, and so I could slide over one space. I rewrote my problem, and I have 480 divided by 68 with my decimal in the house. I rose it to the roof right there, and then I divided as normal. There you go. That's all you need to know to solve decimal division.